Recently, I was thinking about a particular scripture in Ephesians 2 where it says we're seated with Christ in heavenly places. And I understand, one meaning of that scripture to be that we're to look at our life and our situations and circumstances from heaven or God's perspective versus looking at it from, again, our earthly perspective. And while that is absolutely true, sometimes I think we only look at that from the negative sense in terms of, I'm only supposed to look at my problems from God's perspective and not my own, because again, I won't have a full view of it. But instead of just thinking about my problems in that sense, I also need to think about my potential in that sense, because again, my view of my potential is going to be very limited compared to God's view. And even more so, God's plans and his ideas and strategies for my life are so far reaching that I can't even fathom Ephesians 3:2. And I can, beyond all that I can ask, think, or imagine in terms of what my potential is. And better yet said, really what God's potential is inside of me and what he wants me to accomplish on the earth. If we look at Ephesians 1, he said he's already given us every spiritual blessing. 2 Peter 1 tells us that we have everything we need for life and godliness. And so if we take those two scriptures together and go back to looking Ephesians 2 where it says, again, we're seated with Christ in heavenly places, really, there is nothing that I can't accomplish on the planet that God has called me to do and that God has given me permission to do and that God has equipped me to do. So if you look at your potential, again, it's unlimited. God's potential in me is massive, is infinite. And so how do we boil that down to even make sense of that? What has God called you to do in your life? What problem has he called you to solve? What people has he called you to impact? What community has he called you to influence? Because it really comes down to what you're going to do with that potential. What are you going to do with your life that's going to really matter? My book, Ink My Dream, is coming out very soon. And the whole point of that book really is, how do we tap into the mind of God? How do we get ideas from him that he wants things accomplished in the planet? And in the context of the book, how do we build a business around that glorifies God, impacts people's lives, and is a blessing to you, including financially? So if I look at my potential from my perspective, is limited. But if I look at my potential from heaven's perspective, it's infinite. So I'll leave you with this question. What does your potential look like from heaven's perspective?